Brother Los is actually not too far from you, so you got another activist in your neck of the woods, bro. He just came down from Boston, so that's somebody you should really tap into. I don't know why I'm introducing you to Los, because Los, I don't want him to be a bad influence on you. You're already a dude.
I think, I like the influences you have around you, though. So I think you
L is a fucking troublemaker all day, every day, dog.
My kind of people.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's already enough troublemakers out there, bro. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Both your wife and your mama like me, so I must be doing something right.
That's because they don't know you as well as I know you, bro. I keep
them
at a distance.
As you should.
This man is a fucking menace.
I don't want to be too close.
I know. I told him there was one time, bro. Before we jump into it, there was one time we went to L came down to DC. We went to a game or whatever, right? And after the game, he said, "Yeah, tell your mom and wife I said hi." I said, if it was any other motherfucker that said that shit, I'm going in a waistband, bro.
You didn't like the tone in which he said it?
Yeah, I know it's the way he said this shit.
Bro, he make it seem like I had the toothpick in my mouth, like, hey, tell your mom and them I said hi.
He looked him in the eye when he said it.
You don't know this dead in the eye, but he said that shit with his eye. He said that shit with a smirk. When I saw him, I was like,
looking right in his eyeball.
I said, listen, you lucky my kids with me, bro. Because hands and feet, bro. Hands and feet. Yeah. Anyway, man, so I'm glad that I got you guys with an opportunity to have this conversation, man. Recently, Ta-Nehisi Coates, well, let me take a step back. Recently, Ezra Klein, in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk being assassinated, wrote an article. And the article is entitled, Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. Now, this created a firestorm for many reasons, but many people took it as though Ezra was trying to whitewash the history of Charlie Kirk and basically remove all of the hateful and disrespectful and disgusting things that Kirk has been known to say about throw in the name of the community that you're talking about, right? Right. And it made me feel some sort of way because it made me feel as though white liberalism was at it once again, right? I think King in his letter from the Birmingham jail basically said that white liberalism was going to be the stumbling block for race relations and racial justice in this country. And Ezra Klein, in his article, essentially embodied all of that. Now we fast forward, I think, a week or two afterwards, and we have Ezra Klein's friend, I guess. I don't think there's misfortune to call him a friend. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an article himself basically condemning Ezra's words and saying that he was doing a disservice to many communities by trying to whitewash the history of Charlie Kirk. So tonight I want to ask a couple of questions and get some answers from you guys about what you think about this whole picture that we have here. First and foremost, white liberalism and moderates and what that looks like with not only the current climate that we're in, but also, I guess, the overall battle that Black people have in the United States. So I'm going to start with our guest, Los. Your thoughts when you first read or saw the Ezra Klein article, and then I guess your overall thoughts when he had that conversation with Ta-Nehisi.
To be brief, I think my first thought was that it was bullshit. I think I've been in politics, and I'll even broaden the definition. If we use in politics as the textbook definition or the dictionary of just interactions between people, let's say that's politics. And Ezra Klein says he's doing it the right way. It's bullshit to me because they make it seem as though this man sat on the sidewalk with a soapbox a la Malcolm X or Street Side Preacher and allowed people to walk up and debate him. When in fact, this was actually a production where you are going to find people 12 years your junior, in most cases, bring a production team that kind of weeds out people and just, if they start to overwhelm you, they snatch the mic from you and then you edit and you're farming for clips. To me, that's not politics. It's not can't be the right way. So to me, that article is a bunch of bullshit. It is the beginning of the whitewashing. It is trying to change the narrative. And then to see Ta-Nehisi Coates sit with him, I feel like he's, and many of us, suffering from Stockholm syndrome, where we have to then make them feel better about their whack-ass position because they feel guilt in their whiteness. They need to, I don't even know how you tell the difference between a white progressive and a white moderate. It's like falling into a snake den and trying to figure out which ones are poisonous and which ones aren't poisonous. I'd rather just
Muhammad
stay away
Ali
from
said that shit.
Yeah, man. So
Ali said that shit.
So I'll just pause there because I think it's bullshit, and I don't want to add too much weight and legitimize it by even trying to pick out the pieces of it. I think we can with Coates. I understand there are people that want to play that position, and some can play it well if they know they're playing, but some don't even know they're playing that position, and they're just making their white friends and associates feel better. And I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that.
Ooh. Yeah, I dig it. Most times we see with white liberalism always sees race and race relations not necessarily as a moral issue. They always see it as something that needs to be like an affront to good society. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not because it's a bad thing morally to call people the N-word or call someone a nigga. It's because it's not for polite society to say that. Like it's an affront to public behavior. And you could easily see in the aftermath immediately that Ezra, by saying that, leaned on his whiteness and completely escaped the narrative that this person, you basically said that this person did politics right, where he was a troll. Quite literally, that's how he started his empire. And I can't understand that enough.
There should be an emphasis on it. And I just want to clean this up. He didn't say he was doing politics right. He clearly stated that he was doing politics exactly right. He added an emphasis on it. And in that emphasis, to me, I took allegiance. I heard him saying that he was aligned with the way that Kirk was handling those types of things. And I found it, the conversation, for one, I watched Klein and Coates have this thing. I don't even know what the fuck it was called. It wasn't it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't really a discussion.
Don't do that.
No. Because listen, I'm gonna say this. I think just as dangerous as white moderates and white progressives, if black moderates and black so-called progressive, black liberals today are just as dangerous as white liberals and white progressives. You want to know why? Because they are so easily deceived and moved by these little trinket ass discussions. We did backflips when Amanda Seals, who claims to be radical, had such a conversation on an orchestrated scene that people were so excited about that. They did the same thing.
How did Amanda Seals catch strays in this moment?
But no, she's not counting strays, but I'm demonstrating our current allegiance and love affair with liberalism in general. It is literally the thing that is causing us to want to view these types of moments as a victory. That somehow Coates showing up in this setting and pushing back in a gentle, dare I say, passive way on some shit that should have been stomped out with a level of aggression.
What did I say, Lowe's?
So when I'm looking at black people clapping for this, I'm like,
right.
When is the bar set to hell that we're clapping for the bare minimum? Yeah, like you didn't call Klein what he is. You didn't. And again, I think the thing
for the record's sake, what is Klein? Besides a liberal,
an apologist, bootlicker. I mean,
he's in that context. If somebody aligns with Kirk and say Kirk is doing politics exactly the right way, you're an enemy.
Right.
Like there's no other way for me to view that. If you line with people who are looking to destroy me and my seed, my guy. And I think I'm being gracious towards Coates because Coates did on that scene what Coates has always done. Coates has never been aggressive. He's never been someone
Fair
who
enough.
does. He's always played this, even in his books and his writings. While his writings are good, no one is ever going to say Coates is a radical. Like no one's going to
fair
say
enough.
that he comes from the Black radical tradition. I would dare I say,
be fair to Coates. There's a lot of people that would call him radical in his position, not because he is a black radical.
But who though?
Again,
Who are those people?
People like fucking Ezra Klein. People like
but that doesn't matter because that you can't.
No,
he can't be the,
listen, I'm not saying that what L is saying isn't right. What I'm saying is that there are people that think that his position is radical in comparison.
And I'm saying that people who are radical would not view Coates as someone who is radical. Now, again, I try to do that without disparaging his contribution to blackness, because while he is not someone that I would consider of the black radical tradition, I would consider and view him very much as a quote unquote black progressive / black liberal. I would view him as that, but I'm not looking to disparage him because he's not on the same side of the battle as I currently am. What I'm saying is, when you are going to war with well-known and well-established enemies, I don't need you to show up in that manner. I need you to show up with a level of aggression that doesn't only match your enemy, but matches the moment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's get Krush in here. Krush.
I mean, yes, the discussion was definitely a clear example of what I would call incremental discourse around an issue that definitely around an issue and scope of that definitely deserves a far more discerning and more severe discourse. I can understand. I can understand why people would view what Coates did as a step forward in some way, but really it's more. It seems more in a sense of falling in that realm of respectability. That this is the box we can fit into or with this issue safely without putting people in quote unquote danger. But me in the moment is willing to take on those elements of danger. If they exist at all, for us in this situation. To be honest,
I want to jump into what Ezra and Klein said at the very onset of their conversation, but before I do that, I want Los to jump in here. I know that as a former state representative in Massachusetts, I know you've had an opportunity to see behind the curtain and see what white liberalism looks like, battling that from someone who has a more radically black mindset. So can you jump into that a little bit and just, I guess, tell us a little bit about your experience, bro?
So Boston, Massachusetts is an interesting space where, it claims to be very progressive. Actually, the book right behind me is No Right to Work to Normal Living. It talks about Boston in post-civil rights, not post-civil rights, post-civil war era. And what I'm finding is that not much has changed from Reconstruction in Boston to the time I served before leaving Boston. And the progressive liberal space is dominated by white folks, whether you're in politics, whether you're talking about the nonprofits that serve neighborhoods like Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, whether you're talking about in the school system and public school system, the school teachers. It is the white moderates. It is the white liberals and quote unquote progressive. So in the state house, this is made up of several caucuses. By default, as Carlos Henriquez, I joined the Black and Latino caucus, but there's also a progressive caucus. Now, the Black and Latino caucus was about 12 deep out of 160. You walk into and numbers count when you're trying to create majorities. Yep. And when you walk into the progressive caucus, it's about 73 to 80 members. And they're from towns that even growing up in Boston, you ain't never heard of and you probably never been to. And you realize we had a bill called the Three Strikes Bill, is what we called it affectionately, where they were trying to bring the same type of Three Strikes Bill from California to Boston. And the net was so big that it would increase in mass incarceration in Boston and throughout Massachusetts. And I had to present to these groups. And they were already convinced because in their midst were former prosecutors, assistant DAs from white communities who fly under a flag of progressive. But here, when I read this legislation, they're going to start giving people 3 strikes for breaking into an empty dwelling during the day.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? We'll give you a felony strike. So now all of a sudden you can criminalize homelessness and all these things. And I had to, like I was saying before, I tried to give Brother Coates a little bit of leeway. I don't know him well enough to make this distinction, but I know in my role at that time that I had to be the spook that sat by the door. I'm operating as a small minority in this larger group. While I'm thinking radical, I have to play moderate. However, my counterbalance and counterweight was always to keep the radicals informed, as well informed as I am, so that I'm grounded and they come with me. It's not an either or. You don't get a choice of dealing with moderate Los or radical Jamal. You're going to get both of us, and we'll tag team off the ropes if need be and have a town forum. But they are often, my experience, thin-skinned, offended if you don't see their goodness. Easily. If you don't affirm their goodness, their goodwill they extend to you. But these would be the same colleagues that would turn around and ask me if I ever seen a bagel in my neighborhood, because that's the closest they've ever gotten to an all-black, as they grew up in their homogenous neighborhoods that they represent. So I found them to be more and more dangerous. I found them to be that hurdle that MLK talked about. I had to get through them before I could even battle the small Republican Party that's in the House, or the ones that stood in the way of the bill. I have to get through 80 progressives, and I have to win them over. And then I have to do the emotional and mental labor that Coach, I don't think Coach was doing. But why do I have to teach you about racism in my struggle? If you're really progressive, you should default to my standard and follow me. And when I realized that's not what they're about, they want to be in the driver's seat. They want to represent the needs and desires of Black people. It's that savior complex, and I don't need another hero. You know what I'm saying?
I know that's right. All right, let's take a quick listen to, I guess, how that conversation started off.
And the presentation of him as, and I don't want to misquote you here, but as basically a paragon of politics and how politics should be done. So I think I had the same reaction that most ordinary people would have, which is absolute horror at the idea that this guy was somewhere speaking and was killed. But I always think it's important to differentiate how people die versus how they live. And then after doing the research, I had to be honest with you. That's when it got really, really difficult. When I went past my initial impressions and started going through all of the clips of the things he said, the way he talked about people, the way he, described groups in ways that honestly, even as I was writing it, I was uncomfortable saying. And so the idea that this guy should be in any way celebrated for how he conducted politics, the fact that he just slurred across the board, all sorts of groups of people, and then ran an organization wherein, which appeared to me just a haven of hatred. I would not want that to be a model for my politics.
Okay, wanted to take a stop, take a break there. As we're watching that, right? I think part of the dilemma is you could see how troubled Coates is, and even having to have this conversation with Ezra. I think one of the things that catches me is that, well, I don't know what your friendships are like, and these two have already described or said that they are friends outside of this conversation that they're having now,
which is wild as shit to me.
I don't know necessarily if it's wild, but I mean, when you're in academia, when you're in academia, when you're in these spaces, it's, I mean, what else do you expect? You're in academia, you're in these spaces. These are the type of people that end up being in your circle.
How do you have friendships with people who clearly are not for your best interest? Listen, I don't believe that white racists or white liberals just show up one day and just show their white liberalism and their white racism.
Of course not.
I think along the lines, they have always demonstrated these things, and we refuse to acknowledge it or see it, or we see some glimpse of so-called wokeness, so we say they're not as bad as the rest. I struggle when I hear people say, I understand or can see that they have a friendship here. I don't get that. And I guess that just might be how I navigate and approach things. I don't have relationships with people who do this type shit.
No, I dig it. I dig 100%. But I think one of the things that's a dilemma to me as they're having this conversation, you're going to see it shortly, is at least I know when I'm having conversations with you guys, my friends, at the end of the day, that conversation, what ends up happening is that you guys, even if you take a different stance, your initial response is going to be, I get where you're coming from. I see you. I understand why you're saying what you're saying, but here's my point of view. Klein doesn't even do that. And we'll see that in a second. Klein doesn't even do that. He actually just jumps right into, this is the reason why I feel this way.
And I know, as we talked between us that, you are not attempting to make a statement for the entirety of it. But I guess I feel like at a certain point, somebody's legacy, or somebody does something that is so large that it's tough to think about their legacy and take that out of it.
Yep.
And that's how I felt about it.
So I think I want to get at the right level of disagreement here.
You hear that? You just jumped.
So I think
right
one
on.
thing for me is that,
Yep.
I don't know. For me, the immediate hours after somebody is murdered in public, when you see
Minimizing.
that sort of grief and horror pouring out of the people who loved him, and many people loved him, my instinct then is to just sit with them in their grief, right? To say, I can, for this moment, find some way to grieve with you, to see your friend the way, or in some version of the way you saw him, right? That's not my view of, the person's whole legacy, but going to people when they're grieving like that and saying, listen, I want to tell you really what I thought of your friend. Just feels like not what you do in a kind of a community.
Want to take a stop there. He said, what you do in a community. Which community? Whose
And it was
community?
such a minimizing of Kirk's rhetoric, his behavior, all of the things, by making it seem like he was just a regular guy who was killed. He didn't properly label Kirk
The foundational players.
as a founder and organizer of a right-wing white supremacist organization that directly contributed to the current administration being in office.
I don't see
who
how
was then assassanated. I mean, you got to have the whole context.
Yeah, you got to paint the full picture.
I mean,
Go ahead,
we all know reputation is everything. And to see a reputation so conveniently edited here in Coates' face is unbelievable.
Yeah. All right.
I can see people coming down on both sides of that.
I actually think that actually is a great impulse, that after somebody's been killed, and not just killed, but because we live in the media environment that we live in, that it's seen and that it will live forever, and that person's family, you know what I mean?
That it was being looped in front of all of us.
Jesus Christ.
Which I think has a lot to do with how this was taken.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. And to have to go, to have young kids who have to grow up knowing that is a thing that exists in the world. You know what I mean? And
I'll go one step further on this. One thing I wrote about in that piece that I do worry about is I worry we are already in a cycle of political violence, of mimetic violence. I think about Pelosi. I think about Shapiro. I think about the near assassination on Trump. I think about when after that happened, I thought about me. I thought about you. I thought about all kinds of people I know, right? So I do think there's just something about when violence takes hold that that there's something about it that it begins to breach all lines.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess
that was part of my reaction too.
I think all of that is understandable, but I guess, was silence not an option?
There it is.
Yeah. Silence to me was not grieving with people. I felt it was important as someone who is liberal, as someone who's a voice, that there are moments like that. Like, I really do feel, and it's funny because you said something like this in your piece, but it was a little bit more offhanded. The political violence like that is an attack on us all.
Right.
And that in that moment, it creates, for me, even if it's very temporary, that it's important in a moment.
So in my estimation, anyway, to me, it came across as though Ezra saw himself in Charlie Kirk, to be very honest with you. He saw his whiteness in Charlie Kirk as a young white man, relatively young white man, that speaks for a living and said, woe but for God, what is it? Woe but for God, go I, or whatever that the saying is.
Some bullshit, yeah.
Some bullshit. So it was like, because at the end of the day, he said he couldn't stay quiet because he thought that he needed to be in that moment in grief with that community. Mind you, the community that he's harboring has hatred for a larger band of people.
And don't grieve with anybody else.
Who's feeling
and don't grieve with anybody else.
I guess he gets to choose to not see that.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what whiteness does. Whiteness allows you to not be like in that type of liberal whiteness, you can pick and choose which side you want to be on. And in that moment, I was so later on in the video, you see Coates push back on the political violence. And Coates states that Black folks have been experiencing political violence since our arrival on this continent.
Right.
That he highlights how we have been experiencing political. And I thought that was brilliant because as Klein is saying it, I'm furious. Like, hold, time out. You named all of these people as examples of so-called political violence, but you ain't mentioned Till, Evans, Eggers, Malcolm, Martin. You just completely, and that was the part that liberal whiteness does. They has a way of walking that tightrope of getting you to think that they align with your overall values, because when instead of addressing the clear racial dynamic, they always want to go to humanity. They always want to turn it into you being human. My human instinct wanted me to grieve with somebody, but he never acknowledged the other side of that grief coin. That the people that this guy was hating on and building organizations and recruiting people to be a part of
people that he was fostering and building.
He ruined lives.
He didn't highlight how the people who were on that side should not or could not or would not grieve for such a thing.
Reflect on him. Exactly.
But the major part of that where I call bullshit is like you said, to speak to that point, is since when has political violence not been okay? Well, the neighborhood I grew up in, you could get killed for saying the wrong thing to someone that looks like you. They don't say it when Kyle Rittenhouse crosses state lines as a minor with his mother with a gun and kills two people. They don't count it when Kennedy's killed. You know what I mean? Like then they're mad when we call it out when the chickens come home to roost. This is someone that was allegedly assassinated by somebody that was further right than him. That's the thing. He wasn't radical enough. So it's like I don't cry when the zebra gets eaten by the alligator. The alligator got to eat too. So like Coach, I think Coach did a good job of saying we've always been at war. Welcome to seeing your part of it. Welcome to the fear that we carry day in and day out, not only from people and it's weird for them because usually they've been able to focus on us, right? The hidden threat is let's not let these people get so mad that they want to rise up. But when they're and this is as much as we suffer from Stockholm syndrome, I really look at them like through a therapist lens, right? If you've been a sociopath for I'm gonna be nice and say 400 years. I really think it goes back into deep Europe and the Ice Age and all some scarcity shit that they had. They just raised different from Africans who had abundance. It's two different mindsets.
Agreed.
But if you've been a sociopath and you've been raising sociopaths for 20 generations, you're taking little kids to picnics to watch hangings and burnings and dismemberments, and you're making postcards and toys, and you've been doing this, you're sociopathic. So you know what evil you're capable of because you've grown up in it. It's why they try to wear the liberal flag so that they can dance in the middle. It's why a white girl that likes black men will scream rape because she know what her father will do if she acts like she went willingly. You know what I mean? It's why Emmett Till. So exactly. So they stay in this try to be in this. The liberals try to stay in this middle ground where they don't upset their black friends so they can say they got black friends, but they definitely don't want the wrath of white people killing white people. They don't want to deal with that white on white crime, which is the largest crime group in America since the doors have been opened. And I hate when we give them a platform to kind of soften it and let them have that conversation. Let Ezra Klein find a member from
find
the
a white dude to have that.
Find a white author to have that.
And there's plenty of them out there. You could have talked to Robin DiAngelo. You could have talked to all these.
Tim Wise. There are a whole bunch of people you could have had that conversation with. And that goes. Okay, so that goes. I'm glad that you did good segue because that goes to my second question for tonight. Should Coates have even had this conversation with him? And Coates seems to periodically, frequently, I would say at this point, put himself in positions to have conversations with people that he knows are not listening to him, or he knows doesn't have or afford him that same level of grace. Let's not forget, I think it was earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, where he was on CBS Morning and he was talking about the book that he just wrote. He was talking about Palestine, and the dude that was on there, what's his name?
The
Tony the
Israeli
Copel.
dude.
Tony the Copel was like, well, your book comes across as something that a radical militant Palestinian would have, and these are the same materials that these folks use to blow up places. You know what I'm saying? So Coates has always been someone that seems like he puts himself in positions to have conversations with folks that don't necessarily, I won't say that don't respect him, but don't necessarily afford him the same level of grace that he affords them. So I'm going to ask you once again, do you think that Coates should have had this conversation with him in the first place?
I don't have a problem with Coates having the conversation. One of the reasons why I don't have a problem with Coates having the conversation is Coates makes it clear in the video that he is a writer, that he continues to highlight. He never says that he's a community organizer. He never says he's an activist. He never even takes on the title of radical. He clearly states that I am a writer. Even when he's explaining his perspective, he's highlighting, I am a writer, and this is how writers respond and the different roles that we all have. So for that component, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Here's where I take umbrage, is in this current time, we have enough evidence that these motherfucking conversations don't work. That these motherfucking conversations gets misconstrued. These motherfucking conversations get chopped and turned into something else. It becomes something that we do not have the proper skills currently, whether it's media literacy or understanding propaganda, that we do not have the ability to discern what is taking place in these moments. We turn it into literally a black and white component when there's so much different nuance and components to it, that I think if this is the kind of conversation we should be having in the barbershop. Like, this is the conversation. Yeah. I'm not saying that Coates is somebody who is erroneous or bad for having the conversation. Do I wish he would have handled things a little differently? Absolutely. But again, I appreciate him stating his position clearly. He didn't claim to be a leftist. He didn't claim to be any of those things. He literally said, I am a writer, and here's why I responded this way. And when they try to heap other responsibilities and roles on him, he's like, no. That's for the politician. That's for so-and-so. I am a writer. So from that standpoint, I understand why he would have the conversation. But these type of moments are beginning to happen far too frequently. And the way we are discerning these moments are wildly challenging, because we're going to lift up Coates as this black radical and look at Klein. No? Okay, I'm just telling you. What I'm seeing is folks are lifting up Coates as some sort of black radical, which I think is wildly unfair to Coates, because it puts a level of responsibility on him that he does not want, has never wanted. He literally wants to be a prolific black writer who writes strongly from the black experience, and I respect that.
Can we just take a moment and actually say how wild it is for Ezra Klein to, and I think, let me take a step back.
You take more step backs than fucking Steph Curry does in the middle of the game.
It's James Harden. It's James Harden.
Oh, he hit it with the Kells.
I'm gonna take. So,
you got the Kells. You look like Kells with the baseball cap and the stocking.
There it is.
Oh my God, man!
Yes,
there it is.
You see what I'm talking about?
Off the rail.
He's a menace. He's a goddamn menace. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to take.
All you need is a Band-Aid on your cheek.
Brother Vincent said. So don't confuse Ezra Klein with white liberalism. He is not a liberal. He's a moderate capitalist Democrat. Very different. Liberals know Charlie Kirk. Liberals know Charlie Kirk was a hate monger. I don't know if liberals necessarily know that Charlie Kirk was a hate monger, but I will say that Ezra is a capitalist Democrat. And the reason why I say that is because
tell me what the distinction is.
Damn near.
Well, what's the difference between moderate and liberal? For a white person, what's the difference? Because I don't have that scale. Leave the capitalist out. Leave the capitalist out.
No. I don't think it's fair to leave the capitalist part out, because it boils back down to this point.
We all
capitalists. It's damn near dastardly for Ezra to write an article, get paid from this article, get chastised about this, and then get capitalized monetarily because he put it on YouTube and it's got damn near almost 1 million views already, get capitalized on the fact of his chastisement.
So Ezra should have gone on Coates' show. Coates should have had a show, and Ezra should have brought his listeners over to Coates. But we end up doing the emotional lift and that lift all the time for them. Again, we're doing that lift for them.
I think some of the praise that Coates is getting, honestly, is because, once again, whether L believes it or not, or agrees with it or not, I should say, he rolls in these circles. Academia, loftiness, all those folks, that type of circle. Coates does not hang out in black radical circles.
So he's W.E.B. Du Bois. He's our Du Bois, basically, right? Ooh. He's talented 10th. He's okay. And I don't mean that pejoratively.
No. I dig it. So he hangs out in those circles, and I think that there weren't any black people in those circles willing to call Ezra out, and the fact that Coates did is why.
Why do we need to call?
I thought you were going to put a period. I thought you were going to put a period that there were no black people in those circles.
I think that's fair. Also,
I can't say that there's no, because
Coates got to be the only one. Yeah. So if he's the only one in there,
if he's the only one, then that's a different conversation. If he's the only
black liberal radical that they have to put out there, but
like I said, people are
why did Coates have to have this conversation with Klein? Why did he have to have this conversation with Ezra? What was the overall objective? Was it necessary? Because again, when we're doing the heavy lifting, first I need us to acknowledge that we're doing the heavy lifting. Like that has to be number one. Like we have to acknowledge that we are doing too much in the nonprofit spaces, in the politics spaces, in the school spaces, in these institutions, that we are carrying the overall weight.
Doing politics the right way. Doing politics the right way.
So when we're having these conversations with so-called people on the progressive side, the liberal side, what is your overall objective when you're having these conversations? I think there should be a question there of what is motivating you even to engage us. Then the bigger question is, you can have this conversation privately. You can have this. You have his number.
Well,
why do you need to have this conversation recorded?
In fairness to Coates, the very thing that they started with was that they were having this conversation via text privately, and then both decided that they would ultimately bring it.
Let me act like Coates.
Now, why that happened? That's a different conversation. But they were having it privately.
Let's just play. If we play strategy, do we think? Let's say Coates. I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt. Is Coates winning over the hearts and minds? Is he moving white liberals and moderates further to the left?
Nope.
Or is this are we just dancing until we get tired and then we're gonna go to the bar?
We dancing.
To be honest with you, man, I don't know. I mean, if you look at it, Mehdi Hassan said something in his book recently about winning debates. He said it's not about the person that you face to face with. It's about the one or two people that are going to catch.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So I don't know what Coates' end goal is. But if you're standing on that premise, I can understand why he would want to do it. Go ahead, El.
To move, or is he looking to move white folks to the left, or is he looking to move?
That's Ezra's audience.
No,
so I'm assuming
Coates looking to move white folks to the left, or
that's my point. That's Ezra's audience. I think he knows that when he came on the show.
So he's looking to win. Listen, I don't know why.
Win over the hearts and minds of more moderate whites. Yeah, and I think that's where we get caught up so often is that, and this is the kind of the Stockholm syndrome, and maybe it's a survival strategy, right? There's only 40 million of us.
I think that's
40 million of them. So we know in a pure numbers wise, we do need them. Like just like MLK knows, it's a rock and a hard place, right? It's like to need these folks who are unwilling to break from their roots for us to be able to make significant progress. And they make it so incremental. Brother used the word incremental earlier, right? Like even serving in public office, like, I can't move. I might be able to get into the red zone, but I might not score. Do I have to pass the baton off to the next generation? It's so slow. You're stymieing me and making me slow this shit down to a crawl. And we've been crawling forever. How long we got to crawl before y'all just get behind us and go, hey, if y'all really believe that y'all are liberal, if y'all really believe in what we're saying in our experience, then why don't you get behind me with the supplies and your money and just follow my direction? Why I got to make you feel good along the way to bring you along with me? I'm going to be exhausted from that before I can get to the fight.
Before you get
that,
I dig
that's
it.
the vital component.
They need that medal too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that survival component is huge.
That's why
And I
they
think
need
that's
that
when we think of and we look at Black liberals. Black liberals tend to be in that position from a state of survival. When we're looking to bring people in and to walk that fine line and engage in so-called solidarity with white moderates and white liberals, it is a mode of survival. I dig it. I really understand it. So I'm not meaning it in a way to saying what they're doing is inherently wrong. I'm just looking for us at this point in time in this space in history
to build on the strategy
that is not repeating itself. It's just rhyming. We've seen this beat before. We've danced this dance before. So at some point in time, I'm looking for us to begin to move a little bit differently. And we still have not gotten to that point yet where we are so easily seduced by these moments. And I'm concerned. I struggle with that.
It's become performative. It really has become.
At some point, it does become performative.
Absolutely.
The last question I got for tonight, bro. Are these conversations even productive? And I was telling before we got on the show, before we went live, I have a friend of mine. I posted this because
you don't have no friends, man. It's only us three, my guy. It's only us three.
Los, I told you in real life.
You didn't count his wife? Damn. Or his kids?
Or
his kids?
Nah.
Wait, not his
parents? He ain't got no dog. He ain't got no cat.
We got associates. We got associates.
Yeah. Who only use them for his stock.
Bunch of associates.
Somebody I know. I know him.
On social media. And
I don't care where you posted it.
They gave me input. And essentially, one of the homeboys came in the conversation. I said, I don't begrudge Coates for wanting to have this conversation,
because you're too fucking
but I
nice.
wish that he wouldn't have been so gentle in the way he told or presented his argument, right? And this homeboy said, well, many of us that have white friends, white liberal friends specifically, find ourselves in the same position that Coates is in with his friendship talking to Ezra.
Here we go again, preserving our fucking friendship.
Yeah, man.
Having to explain things to these folks. So given that, I gotta ask the question once again: are these conversations productive? Do you think conversations like these specifically are productive?
Nah.
You exclude all the corny, foolish, jubilee debates that we see show up. I'm talking about like one-on-one conversations like this.
I'm at this point in time in where we are in this current state where I think those types of conversations are not productive. They don't produce any change in material conditions. They don't produce any change in the move and thoughts of people. And the reason why I say that, because while it may do it on a small level, it's not having the kind of impact that we need right now. And we need a larger impact. We need a more substantial impact. And if we're going to be doing these things and it doesn't have that substantial impact, we might as well stop. We might as well stop doing it. And it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not doing it. I don't engage. I don't enjoy watching it. And I am troubled now that so many of our Black folks want to be engaged in this medium because I don't think it's healthy.
No doubt. Krush, your thoughts, bro. Is it productive?
I mean, I would like to think so to a certain degree, but really it does feel performative at the end of the day. We again, I mean, just like we've been referring to all night, the current atmosphere does not allow us to be to sugarcoat things and to try to mitigate feelings. We're in a severe state in this country, and we have to address it as such. Period.
I dig it. Sorry, Los. Last word.
Yeah, I don't think it's productive. I think if it was productive, we'd have a way to measure it, right? You talk about producing things, is usually you have a metrics to measure it, and I think that the gap is we're hearing a lot of this kind of conversation. At least in the generation before us in civil rights, you had a diversity of public thought. You had the Baldwins, you had the Malcolms, you had the Martins. So you got the whole spectrum of from Black moderates to revolutionaries, right? And they took different shapes and forms because there was more of a cohesiveness. Now we get a lot more of that 2% than we get of that whole milk, and it's watered down. And when you only get that message, it kind of programs us to be more performative. And we're not taking best practices of the generation before us. We like to say we're not our ancestors. Yeah, we're not. I don't think we as ill as them. We keep talking about we want to recreate Black Wall Street, but ain't nobody talking about forming a military or militia to protect it from being firebombed again. Like, you know what I mean? So we're not really learning on the lessons. Yeah, we're not taking
the next step.
Aggressive step forward. We're not learning on our missteps of the past or the sacrifices that were made before us. We just keep repeating this easy part of making them feel good. And there has to be nature's energy has to conflict, right? So I'm okay with those conversations there. If there is somebody putting rags and gasoline in bottles, having a conversation somewhere else on a national level. If I know there's a militia leader that's going to be on a podcast that I can tune into later on, it's going to be with Ezra Klein or someone else of that ilk. And we're not doing that. It's the conversation is gone. I was going to say gone left, but it hasn't gone left. It's really in the middle lane. And you think about being on the highway, the middle lane, they don't pass nobody. They're not getting over the exit. They just go cruise. Yeah, man. And that's not going to work for slow and steady. Just keeps us in this circle and this cycle continuously. And I want to either get off at the exit and land in Ghana somewhere with a second citizenship, or I want to start getting my own collection of rags, gasoline and rags and be ready to go.
And start hitting them joints up. That's what I'm talking about.
I dig it.
Like a black dude.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys taking.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? Get that full stocking cap down over your head.
The full shiesty. Los already told me that he already got that joke ready and waiting in the background.
Box of five. They coming
at it.
Yeah.
I'm not even mad at it. Like I said, I appreciate you guys taking the time out for us to have this conversation, man. If you guys are jumping in and checking it out, please make sure you follow us across social media, man. Give us a like, leave a comment. We really want to know what you guys think as well, bro. I know there's a saying that no person ever becomes their full and complete self, the best self that they can possibly be alone. And I want to thank all of you guys for helping me to be my better selves. I appreciate you guys for having the conversation. Los, love you, bro. L, love you. Krush, love you, man. I'll check you guys again.
All right.